Hello, RWorld. Welcome back to another episode of RWorldTalk. I am your host, Chris Kresman. We are going to do another affiliate spotlight with you guys today. Lucky enough to be joined by Mr. Justin Nepola. Justin, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. A pleasure to be here.
How you doing?
I'm doing amazing today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Justin, we're going to kick it off with this one. You've had a very successful career, obviously, in the title industry. First off, thank you for being a valued affiliate member here at RWorld. Can you share a little bit about your journey and how you got started?
Sure. I'd be happy to. So, like many University of Miami students at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I bounced around and changed majors a bunch of times. And then at some point I said, you know what? The FBI sounds like a lot of fun.
Okay.
I want to go into the FBI. At the time, there were 3 ways to get into the FBI. You either needed to have military service, which, you know, I at that time had no interest in. Speak another language. I am terrible at languages, so that wasn't an option. Okay. Or go to law school. So that seemed the easiest way, plus I get to mess around and be in school for another 3 years.
Okay.
Went to law school. While in law school, met my wife, and applied for the FBI. Went up to Virginia, did the interview, had the whole thing. They said, congratulations, you're hired. You're moving to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I said, no, I'm not. I look back now, could I have toughed out a few years in Michigan? Absolutely. But when you're young and you're 20s, like 5 years seems like an eternity, and Michigan seemed very cold.
And you just came out of University of Miami.
Well, and I had gone to law school in San Diego, so I was on the beach in Southern California for 3 years, so I definitely didn't want to go to the Great White North.
Okay.
My family had always been in real estate, so I said, you know what, I'll go into real estate. And I worked for a developer for a while. I'd done some different things. And then for about 5 minutes, I said, well, maybe I'll open a title company. I said, you know what, before I do that, let me go work for one first. And I was fortunate to get a job at an underwriter.
Okay.
And I loved it. I did that for a number of years. And then after a time, there was a transition. I was like, all right, you know what, time to go out on my own. And so started a law firm. My law partner retired. And so I partnered with Sharon Peoples, and we did People's Title.
Okay, fantastic. Sharon Peoples, I'm sure a lot of our listeners know she's been around for a while doing a lot of good work for RWorld.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. You have recently been all over social media, and you've had some crazy videos that have come out, jumping in the pool in a full-on suit, and the whole 9 yards. I'm guessing that you're getting some of that inspiration from Antonella, who you've hired to follow you around with that camera and do some social media for you.
So she is amazing. She's brilliant. She does a great job. 95% of the crazy ideas are mine. Okay. I have to take credit. She actually gets frightened with the shit that I come up with. Sorry.
David will bleep that out. It's fine.
Thank you. I didn't knock the mug off. I didn't use. All right. So most of the crazy ideas that we do come up with, the jumping in the pool, the bee suit, the popping out of a garbage can, that is all me. She plays along.
There's a lot of cringe moments.
There are a lot of cringe moments. There was a terrified moment when she had to wear a bee suit also to film. Okay. Filmed that one. But the insanity is mine. It makes it look great. And then she does come up with terrible ideas, like calling me the George Clooney of real estate, which she needs to stop. I am the George Costanza of real estate, not the George Clooney of real estate.
Okay. So to talk to us a little bit more about the social media following that you have. Have you found that having somebody dedicated to constantly putting out videos for you has increased your exposure and really stepped up the game for you?
Absolutely. It's like anything. If you invest in it, if you put the time and effort into it, you will see the returns. You see a lot of people in all industries where they know, social media, that's the way to go. You have to do it. You have to market. You have to be out there. You want to stay top of mind. But they don't put necessarily the time, energy, and honestly, the money behind it to actually make it successful. A lot of people just do the bare minimum, and unfortunately, you get out of it what you put in. And you see it with every industry for sure.
Yeah, and your stuff comes out very nicely edited, which is definitely the way to go.
For sure.
So let's talk about some serious stuff now. You were just named at the Realtor Revolution Humanitarian of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So that is a tremendous honor. Why don't you tell us what that award means to you personally, and what is driving your passion for community service?
Sure. Thank you. It's an honor because I get to follow in the footsteps of so many great prior humanitarians of the year like yourself, who I lost to a few years ago. Not bitter at all. Even being nominated for that award is always an amazing honor. There are many awards that you can not buy, but at least put yourself in a position to be recognized for. Humanitarian of the Year, you really have to earn it. You have to show that you're out in the community giving back. It's not something you can fake. It's not a popularity contest. It's not something people vote on. You really have to do the work, and people recognize it.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. It's not something that you can fake. That is based on the actual work that you have put in on behalf of other people. There's nothing that comes back to you except for the gratitude that you feel that you were able to help someone in the community. But I think that that's one of the most important awards that we do give away, is because it is based on your track record of service, and you have an incredible track record of helping the community.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So why don't you tell us what drives that passion for community service?
I can't really tell you a particular time where I got into it or why. I think it's one of those things like everybody, you make your New Year's resolutions like, oh, this year I'm going to volunteer. And for whatever reason, one year I actually followed through with that New Year's resolution. And I was just hooked. I was like, all right, this is great. I really enjoyed doing this. I just felt like, even if it was only for an hour, the rest of the day was a success. Like I could always look back, all right, you know what? I helped distribute food for a little while, and I felt good about it. And then it snowballs. You're like, oh, what are some other things I can do? And then you find out about other opportunities. And then I was very fortunate to get involved with the Community Outreach Committee, which at the time was just a task force. And
they do incredible work.
Amazing work. Really, really amazing work. And that allowed me to meet and have other opportunities, whether it be through Rebuilding Together Broward or Habitat for Humanity. So it just expanded from there. And I love stupid challenges. So like Feeding South Florida had a 24-hour sort-a-thon. Well, nobody had ever done all 24 hours before. So I said, I have to do all 24 hours.
Okay.
And a lot of coffee and Red Bull later, I sorted food for 24 hours straight. And then it's become a family thing. My daughter, who was probably 12 at the time, was like, well, I want to do that now. And so she joined me the following year. Through Habitat for Humanity, I found out about the Jimmy Carter Work Week, where they go and spend a week building in different towns. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds like fun.
Awesome.
So a few years ago, I went with hundreds of people. We went to Nashville, and we spent the whole week building houses. From the ground up, you start with a slab, and when you leave at the end of the week, there were actual houses there. It was amazing.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, it's almost like something bites you. And I remember in my own personal journey signing up for so many things, and I had friends that are, hey, you want to go on a boat this weekend? It's like, no, I'm going to be doing a habitat build. And they're like, why do you keep doing so much and giving up your time and giving up your weekends? It's like, I would much rather be doing that than going out on the boat with you guys. I'm sorry, but that's, I've got more important things to do that are actually changing the world and affecting people's lives in such a positive way that you end up having like such great feelings inside you for the work that you were able to do. It's really amazing. And you're right, it does snowball, and then you just keep doing more and more and more and more until you get burned out.
Yep. And you and I have very soft jobs. So the opportunity to get out there and, swing a hammer and,
right,
put up the
drywall
and all that stuff. Yeah. It feels really good because it's just a different,
it sure does.
Different day. So I love that. Yeah.
So as an affiliate member of RWorld, how do you see the relationship between realtors and title companies evolving in today's real estate landscape?
It's such an important partnership that you need each other. At the end of the day, until that transaction gets closed and everybody works together, nobody gets paid.
Right.
So it's always very important that we both have a good relationship, good communication is vital. You don't always see that, and so it's very important that both parties are always communicating, keeping each other up to date, and because you need each other. Nobody's closing or getting paid at the end of the day without the other one.
Yeah, communication is key, and a lot of times we see, you get emails from the title company, and sometimes people just overlook them. They don't realize that there's information that is needed by your title partner in order to get that deal to the finish line. That open line of communication needs to absolutely needs to stay open throughout that entire transaction. So some of the changes that we're experiencing now with the way that business is being transacted, we're not seeing those offers of compensation being placed in the MLS anymore. So being a title partner, what is it that your responsibility is as far as verifying buyer brokerage agreements on the buyer side of the transaction? Is that something that title companies are currently policing?
So like everything in real estate, Tallahassee, or in this case, nationally, a new rule is implemented, and then it takes a little while for everything to get worked out. And this is one of these cases where the title industry is still figuring out what to do with this.
Okay.
The buyer's broker's agreement is similar to the listing agreement. It is an agreement between the agent and their client. It's not like the actual sales contract that is a contract between the buyer and seller.
Right.
The title company normally only is involved with the actual contract. Any agreements that the agents have with their clients doesn't matter to us. It's like, that's completely separate.
Yeah, title company never asked you to see the listing agreement.
Exactly. Now, some agents, some attorneys, or some title agents and some attorneys are asking for a copy of the buyer's broker agreement. It has not become industry standard yet. It may. Tomorrow, all the underwriters may say you're required to have this on file, and in which case we will. But right now, it's still working its way out to see what happens.
Yeah, the same way that we as realtors are not asking our buyer side counterparts, if you're the listing agent, it's really none of our business to be asking the buyer if they've got a written buyer brokerage agreement. But certainly we do know that Michael Ketchmark is out there looking for you guys to find out if you do have those agreements signed or not. So make sure that you do keep a copy of them in your file, have them signed with your buyer before you go and start touring properties. And the recommendation is to keep those with your file for 5 years, which is how long you should be keeping all of your transaction paperwork. So Justin and team, as of today, are not going to be Big Brother policing those documents, but make sure that you guys do keep them.
But that could change tomorrow. I could get that notice tomorrow that we're required to. But today, I don't want to be responsible for policing that. Correct.
Okay, fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do in the community and some of the causes that are close to your heart?
Sure. Housing is definitely my favorite. That's my passion. I do really enjoy working on the houses. I really enjoy helping people, especially with like a habitat. People get their first home is always an amazing experience. I love working with Rebuilding Together Broward, where I have an opportunity to go into some neighborhoods where people just, whether it be senior citizens or veterans, or for whatever reason, people can't afford the upkeep of their homes. And we're able to, in our case, it's usually just very cosmetic work, but the organization will come in and do bigger work.
That's a beautiful job that they do. I remember doing one of the rebuild projects with you a couple of years back where we had gone and cleaned up all the landscaping at the local church, all the homes that were right behind the church where the neighborhood was pretty blighted. And we went through and painted people's houses and did a lot of yard cleanup and just really made the community a lot more of a special place for those people to
It makes a big difference, for sure. I mean, as real estate professionals, just a little change, just a coat of paint. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and there was a hell of a lot of smiles on people's faces that day.
Absolutely,
yeah. Awesome. What else? What else do you get into?
So, I've been fortunate to have opportunities with food insecurity, working with Feeding South Florida, like I mentioned. There's a smaller nonprofit called Showering Love, where they actually have buses where they're built with showers inside. So they go to where the homeless are and allow them an opportunity to shower and get cleaned up and just regain a little dignity. Well, they've recently taken over a property, and they'll be housing 10 unhoused veterans. So it was great. It was a great opportunity to help them and go in there and just help prepare the house for the veterans when they get there. So it's always a fun mix of smaller local nonprofits that I get to work with, as well as the bigger nationally known ones.
Okay, beautiful. So back to title. I know we're jumping around here a little bit, but I wanted to touch on all the humanitarian efforts that you're involved with, as well as talking about the title work. But so back to title, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced as a title company owner, and how did you have to overcome them?
Sure. From a business side, the biggest problem we deal with on a daily basis is fraud. Fraud is sadly rampant, so it's always top of mind. We're getting wires for rather large sums of money on a regular basis.
Right.
So it's so important when you're entrusted with people's money that it's always safe. And sadly, there's always somebody trying to, hack the emails or, just do something unscrupulous. So it's always a problem. We're very fortunate in Broward County that we have an amazing property appraiser who's on top of that all the time.
Yep.
And they've started to expand that program throughout the state.
Marty's a warrior.
He really is. He really is. He does a great job. But, unfortunately, the bad guys always seem to be one step ahead. So that is always top of mind for us, for sure.
Yeah, that's so scary. And I think that every single person listening has probably heard a story at one point or another. If you've been in real estate for a day, you've heard about somebody's deposit being wired to the wrong to the wrong account, basically. Yeah. And I went to a cybersecurity event. They were talking about how the hackers already have access to your email, and they're just waiting for the moment that you send out the wiring instructions to your customer, which is, we started a practice in my brokerage where we do not touch wire transfer information. Mm-hmm. You deal directly with the title company. Yep. Hopefully you guys have systems in place where the wire instructions is sent with a encrypted email, and then they call to verify to make sure it's
always
the right number.
Confirmed, absolutely.
But the scam is still out there, and they get access to your email. They see that you're going to send out the wiring instructions. They change a couple of digits of those numbers, and it ends up going to an account that it never was meant to go to. Yep. And you think that the email that you're getting is trusted, but if you actually take a very close look at that email, it might be, chriskresman@gmail.com. Well, this one's going to be chriskresman1@gmail.com.
All the time.
Nobody ever sees it. They don't realize that there's a mistake, that it came from somebody who it wasn't supposed to come from. They're really, really, really good at what they do.
They're more putting the one would be too obvious. They'll put the one for the I in Chris.
Okay.
So it's even more difficult. You just look at it and go, all right, it looks perfectly normal.
Right.
Yet they're very, very savvy. You probably heard the story about the AI fraud that was attempted a week ago.
Yeah, we just saw that on the news.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Where they made an image of the woman to look just like her driver's license photo and put her on a Zoom camera, and it was an AI generated image.
It wasn't even a real person. It's unbelievable.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. It blows my mind that if you're that smart to know how to do something, that you can't make money honestly. But
right. Wouldn't the FBI want to hire you to do some cybersecurity stuff? So what advice would you give to someone who's looking to break into the title industry?
Sure. If you're looking to break into title, you want to definitely be a people person, because it is absolutely a people industry.
Like Sharon Peoples.
Like Sharon Peoples. Yes, absolutely. It is very important because you are. And a lot of times it's stressful because it is a large transaction. Most cases, it's the biggest investment a person's going to make in their lives.
Right.
So you really want to be able to help them. And then beyond that, it's important to be organized and professional and all of that and have a knowledge of the industry. But all of that can be learned. You can't necessarily learn to be a people person and learn to work with people. That's something you have to have. And I recommend work for somebody. Learn the industry first. Don't just jump in and think that anybody can do it, because it can be a challenge for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I've been part of some very, very challenging files, and you certainly want to know what you're doing.
Yes.
Number one, but you do have that right. If you're not a people person, you're not going to have people sending you their customers, because realtors are pretty outgoing, bubbly people, and they don't want to send their customer to somebody who's going to be very drab.
Yeah, no,
not
absolutely
easy to work with. So You've got a successful business. Let's talk about balancing your business and the community service that you do.
Sure.
I know exactly what it's like and how hard that can be, but why don't you tell us how you manage your time and stay motivated across all the commitments that you have? Because you do have association service, your humanitarian work. You've obviously are still running a successful business. So how do you juggle all of that?
Sure. For a long time, people would ask me, what are your hobbies? And I would laugh. I'd be like, I'm a grown man with a wife and kids and a mortgage. I don't have time for hobbies. But community service always was my quote-unquote hobby. I didn't play golf. I don't fish. I don't do anything. But I truly believe it is a great way to connect with people. You've got like the outreach committee where, I'm working side by side with people, and you're going to build a relationship with them far deeper and more meaningful at the end of the day than you ever would, playing 18 holes or going out on the boat for a few hours. So that, wouldn't say that I looked at it as work, because it was what I loved to do, but it allowed me an opportunity to kind of balance the two, where it would be like, all right, this is something fun that I look forward to, but at the same time, I can look at it and go, all right, and it's also an opportunity to connect with people.
Okay, awesome. So looking ahead, what are some goals that you have for your company, and what are you looking at as far as humanitarian efforts in the next few years?
Sure. So as far as the company, we just want to keep growing. We want to keep going. We're fortunate that things are going well, and now that the summer's over, businesses seems to be getting back to normal, which I think everybody's very happy about.
Yeah, we've had a slow period for a while.
It was slow, and hopefully, as of recording today, we just got hit by that storm not too long ago. So hopefully that won't, devastate the market. But it's Florida. We get through it one way or another. So, I'm always cautiously optimistic. I've done it long enough that I've seen the ups and downs, and you just keep moving along. As for the humanitarian work, I still enjoy, I'll still do any opportunity I can to get out there with Habitat or rebuilding or feeding South Florida or Hands on South Florida, any of the ones we can do.
So you're in it for the long haul?
Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful. Well, we're going to let you get back to your business and let you get back to your humanitarian efforts. But one last question that I ask of all the guests that we have on the podcast. Okay. Florida has many hidden gems. South Florida has many hidden gems. Why don't you tell us what your favorite hidden gem is, whether that be a restaurant, beach, night spot, something that you love about living in South Florida?
So I probably shouldn't say this because then everybody will go there, but I feel like everybody knows about the jetties down on Fort Lauderdale Beach at the end by Harbor Island, where you can sit on the jetties, watch the cruise ships go in and out. My wife and I love going there.
Okay.
In the evening, we'll go and we'll get a beverage and watch the ships go out. In the morning, we'll go up and do our sunrise acro yoga and do silly stuff like that. But it's a lot of...
Wait. Oh, have you... Acro yoga.
Okay, so... my wife and I have started doing acro yoga, where you basically, you hold each other upside down and do all sorts of crazy.
Okay.
It's 10% Cirque du Soleil and 90% yoga.
Okay.
But it's very entertaining, and it makes for excellent social media content. People are always very entertained by it.
Okay.
But it's been a lot of fun, and it's a nice way to start the day when we go down to the beach and right by the jetties, and when it's quiet in the morning, it's always a lot of fun.
All right, I'm going to creep on you guys.
And
go down to the jetties and watch you do it.
Come on down.
That sounds fun. All right, Justin, thank you so much for being with us. And for you guys, we will see you right back here next week on RWorldTalk.